Sometimes the most powerful stories are the quietest ones. They're the ones we see every single day, but maybe don't really notice. In this explainer, we're going to dive into Dilip Chitre's poem, Father Returning Home. It's a short but, wow, an incredibly moving piece that just perfectly captures that universal experience of a silent, daily return.
Right from the get-go, the poem hits you with this image. It's so simple, but it just perfectly nails that feeling of being disconnected, of being completely insignificant, almost lost. Just think about that for a second. A word dropped from a long sentence.
And that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can someone, a father no less, feel like a forgotten piece of a sentence right in the middle of his own family's story? Well, this poem, it offers a really powerful and, honestly, a pretty moving answer.
So the poem kicks off by painting this picture of the father's journey home. He's on a late evening train, packed in with all the other commuters, but you get the sense he is absolutely alone. The poet sets this really melancholic, heavy scene from the very first line.
He describes a gray platform, but this is so much more than just the color of the concrete. Chitre is using the color gray to symbolize the father's entire existence. It's dull, it's monotonous, it's just lifeless. It's the stage where his joyless return happens day after day. And the poet just keeps building this image with these incredibly vivid details. His clothes are soggy from the rain, his sandals, his chapels are sticky with mud, his bag is heavy. You can almost feel the physical weight he's carrying, and you know it's a burden that's so much bigger than just a bag of books.
But here's the thing, his exhaustion isn't just physical. The poem says his eyes are unseeing, so he's looking out the window as the world rushes by, but he isn't really seeing any of it. It's this sign of a deep emotional detachment from everything around him.
So he finally gets through the city, through the rain, and he gets home. You'd think the journey's over, right? Nope. In fact, this is where the coldest, most isolating part of his entire day really begins.
His whole routine at home just feels empty. There's no warmth. He drinks weak tea, eats a stale chapati. These are little details that just scream neglect or maybe indifference. Then he goes to the toilet, probably the only place he can be alone just to think. Every single action is solitary. There's no connection, no shared moment.
And then this one line from the poem tells you exactly why. Man, this is a devastating detail. His sullen children have often refused to share jokes and secrets with him. They're moody, they're distant, they are actively pushing him away. The emotional gap between them is just laid bare, right there. He's providing for them, but he's not a part of their lives at all.
So his only real escape is sleep, but even there, he doesn't find any peace. He's listening to static on the radio, just noise, and dreaming about his ancestors, about nomads. It's this desperate, heartbreaking search for a connection, for some kind of roots, for a feeling of belonging that he just doesn't have in his real life.
Okay, so we feel the sadness, we feel the isolation, but how does the poet pull this off with such simple language? It's incredible, right? Let's get into the mechanics a bit, the poet's craft.
Chitre is using a few key literary tools here. We've got that simile we started with, the one that makes him seem so small and insignificant. We have the symbolism of the gray platform representing his whole monotonous life. And then there's this really deep irony. Home, the one place that's supposed to be warm and loving, is actually the coldest, most alienating place for him.
The very structure of the poem tells a story. It's basically split into two halves. The first part is his public journey, right? The physical commute that anyone on the street could see. But the second half, that's his private reality. That's the internal suffering and the loneliness he feels behind closed doors. It's such a brilliant way to show the disconnect between his outer life and his inner world. And you might notice there's no rhyme scheme, no predictable rhythm. The poem's written in what we call free verse, and that's totally on purpose. This lack of a neat, tidy structure perfectly mirrors the father's life. It's just this continuous, mechanical, and unbroken routine, with no little spark of joy or poetry to break up the monotony.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Why does this little poem, written decades ago, still hit so hard today? Let's talk about why it has such a lasting impact.
The poem weaves together so many powerful themes. You've got the isolation of living in a huge, crowded city. You've got that painful generation gap between parents and their kids. You've got the soul-crushing effect of monotony, the quiet tragedy of getting older and being neglected. And running through it all is this desperate search for some kind of meaning.
When you boil it all down, Father Returning Home is this really profound commentary on the emotional price we pay for our modern, fast-paced lives. It's a wake-up call to recognize the invisible struggles of the older generation, who can so easily become strangers, even inside their own homes.
And that really leaves us with a final, really important question. See, this poem isn't just about one father on a train in India. It's about all the silent figures in our own lives. In our rush to get ahead, are we leaving behind the very people who got us here? Are we truly seeing them, or have they become like words dropped from our own long sentences?